Welcome to the Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle podcast marketing magic training. If that is what you are looking for, you have come to the right place. I am your host, Seth Green. We're going to go ahead and get started in 4 minutes. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. This is Seth Green. I am your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're here, it is most likely because you read the $1 Million Swipe File of the Month in the August 2015 Glazer Kennedy Insider Circle newsletter, which was 4 amazing, wonderful pages written about what you're about to learn about today, which is our podcast marketing magic idea. So I was incredibly flattered that GKIC chose to write about me as their swipe file. So I'm going to give you a ton of value to swipe. I'm going to warn you, there is no pitch at the end of this presentation. So if you are hoping to be sold something, I am going to disappoint you. If you are hoping for 27 stack slides of $87 million in bonuses that can be yours for only $19, you came to the wrong webinar because I don't have any of those. This is just some great content, great value that I know can transform your business because it's already working for our clients. So you are about to discover how to get impossible to reach decision makers to seek you out, how to write a book without writing a book, and how to get customers from iTunes for as little as $15 a month. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So have you ever wondered how they do it? And by they, what I mean is, if you watch the source code videos of Dan Kennedy's recent launch, you saw him refer to the Internet Marketing Freak Show. And by that, he's referring to, let's say you get an email today from Jeff Walker. Say, I'm going to throw Jeff under the bus, saying, go buy my product launch formula 7.0 or whatever version he's on now. That's not the only email you get, is it? And he's not the only person who emails you. You also get an email from Frank Kern saying, buy Jeff Walker through my affiliate link and I'll give you this amazing bonus. And then the next day you get an email from Rich Sheffrin saying, buy Jeff's stuff through my email. I got a better bonus than Frank. And then you get an email from Mike Filsane, and you get an email from Ryan Dice, and you get an email from everybody else. Have you ever wondered how they do that? I used to think that there was a conspiracy, and there is, that they all get together like once a month in some super secret mastermind group. And they all talk about, hey, who are we going to promote next month? Oh, Jeff's got a new product. Let's all promote Jeff next month. Let's all mail for him and make $1 million. And I thought, I want to get in that room, which I haven't been able to pull off yet. Not sure if there actually is a room or if they just do it via email or webinar. But I said, how do I get that working in my business? And how do I get that working for my clients who might be regular traditional business people? Well, I figured it out. And I promise that if you stay with me, I will show you exactly how to do it. Are you ready? All right. So why podcasting? First of all, I don't want to assume anything. Let's talk about what a podcast is, in case you don't know. Over 1 billion people right now are subscribed to podcasts. A podcast is basically the equivalent of a radio show on your phone, on your smartphone. So what would the advantages be to that? Well, if you wanted to have a traditional radio show, you'd have to buy airtime on a radio station, which would cost you depending on the radio station, if you want to be on drive time and what city you're in, be a ton of money. And that's local radio. I know I've had clients who did local radio shows, spent $50,000, $60,000 a year doing their local radio show. Now, if there's a radio station that already has your target market and a show aimed at your target market that they're listening to, that might be a great idea. But what if you're a local dentist? There's probably not a show on with your perfect demo on already. You're going to have to build your own audience to get to listen to the show. You're going to have to advertise it. You're going to have to pay money to get those people on board. And how many people want to listen to a dental radio show? And are you going to spend that 60 grand to reach 10 people that actually care? You know, Dan Kennedy talks about don't do mass market, non-direct response brand building stuff, do direct response. So what if you could have a radio show that cost you next to nothing, that only your target market listened to, and there was no waste? That's a podcast. And it's why there are household names like Tim Ferriss or Gary Vaynerchuk, even our lovely friends at Digital Marketer who are now podcasting. And I have written, as you know, hopefully you already got your free download copy of Podcast Marketing Magic, where I interviewed 20 of the top podcasters in the world and got them to spill their secrets for you. And what I learned was 90% of them were monetizing the same way. They were making money by growing their audience big enough and then selling advertisements or sponsorships of that quote unquote radio show. And that works great if you've got a big audience or a big market or if you're national. But what if, again, you're a local dentist or chiropractor or retail store owner or financial planner? The local professional is never going to get hundreds of thousands of people listening to their show. The dentist may never get over a couple thousand downloads. So how does he make money from the show? From his very first episode with a small audience. I figured it out and I'm going to show you. I happen to have the number 3, as high as number 3 rated marketing podcast on iTunes. So please, if you would be so kind, go to iTunes, go to the podcast app and go search for Direct Response Marketing, and you will see me all over the place. Please subscribe, and I'd love a 5-star review from you if you like our show. Listen to the recent episode I did with Dan Kennedy himself. Please ignore the audio quality. The content is what matters. Now, why is podcasting so important right now? Well, what you're seeing here is Apple's iPlay. So Apple has a deal with every major car manufacturer that the next generation of car that you buy, the next models, your interface is going to look like, your screen is going to look like this. It's going to come pre-bundled with the Apple Podcast app built in, and you cannot delete it. See, they are attempting to replace terrestrial FM radio. See how much money there is here. So even if you didn't have a smartphone, or even if you didn't have an iPhone, you will now have an iCar. They're going to take over the world, and you want to be a part of that. Because right now there's 1 billion people listening to podcasts, and only 25% of the world's population is online. In 5 years, as Brendan Burchard has pointed out, that population by 2020 will triple. 75% of the world's population will be online, and they'll be online through smartphones, not laptops or desktops. The two most used apps on your smartphone, other than Facebook and Twitter, are the podcast app and Amazon. So if you don't have a podcast and you don't have a book, how are those billions of new people going to find you? That's why you need to do this now before everybody else jumps on it. That's why the time is now. This is the ground floor. This is like, to steal from Perry Marshall, this is the equivalent of signing up for Google AdWords like the first month it came, the first year it came out, and you could buy clicks for pennies. That's what this is. Who am I? Why should you listen to me? Well, obviously, I have written 5 best-selling books: Financial Advisor Marketing Magic, Cutting Edge Marketing Magic, Real Estate Marketing Magic, Online Marketing Magic, The Facebook Ninja, and you just got an advanced copy of my next book, Podcast Marketing Magic. I have been featured on real media, not paid placement, real media like Wall Street Journal, CBS Money Watch, CNN, NBC, Los Angeles Times, Miami Herald. I have also been the only person in history nominated for GKIC's Marketer of the Year back to back to back, 3 years in a row. But I didn't start out that way. I did not start out as a quote unquote marketing guru. I started out as a senior at Syracuse University, majoring in acting. I wanted to be a Broadway star. That was my life goal. And 2 of my friends and I, my senior year, decided we were going to produce an interactive murder mystery musical, The Mystery of Edwin Drood by Charles Dickens. It's interactive because the audience gets to choose who the killer is. There are 20 possibilities, 20 different versions of the last scene and final song based on who the audience picks the killer is. So we formed a student organization. We put together a proposal. We went to the student government. We said, we need money. They said, okay. We started production. 6 weeks from opening night, we got a phone call that said, this is the SGA. We need to talk. We need to talk is never a good message to get, whether it's from your wife, your girlfriend, your boss, Dan Kennedy, or the Student Government Association. So we went in for our meeting, and they said we made a mistake. Our bylaws prohibit a first-time student organization from getting so much money. We didn't realize that. When we gave you the money, we need half of it back. I said, you can't have it back. We're 6 weeks from opening night. We need the money. He said, sorry, we're impounding the funds from your bank account. So I had a choice to make. I could close the show and cancel, tell all my kids' parents that hopefully their plane tickets were refundable, or I could find a way to get the money. So just like Tom Cruise in the movie Top Gun, when the bald admiral says, chomping a cigar, says, son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash. My ego wrote a check. I had the brilliant idea to tell my 2 friends, my co-producers, that, hey, I've got all these prepaid credit card offers in the mail at my apartment. Why don't I just sign them, get the credit cards, we'll charge the show, we'll sell tickets, we're going to sell admission for the show, and, whatever money we don't make back in ticket sales, then we will have, you guys will get credit cards, you'll write me a cash advance check, we'll split the bill 3 ways. What do you say? My friend said, great idea, do it, Seth. And I did it. And we produced the show, except I knew nothing about marketing. So we did not sell too many tickets, and we did not make too much money. So the show was over. I went to my 2 friends. I said, guys, got to go get me some credit cards and pay off take your third of our debt. They went to their parents and asked them for permission to do so. Their parents said, no way, which is what my parents would have said had I asked, which is why I didn't want to ask, because I didn't want to hear the word no. And so my friends screwed me over and left me stuck holding the bill. I had no way to pay it back, and I got stuck going Chapter 7, bankruptcy. What I thought was one of the worst days of my life at the time, listening to the bankruptcy court trustee saying, you spent how much money on your credit cards? for a musical. So I was not happy. And those two people are no longer my friends. Until I got into a mastermind group with Dan Kennedy, and Dan said, "You've only gone bankrupt once. You know, all the people in this room are multimillionaires, and most of them have gone bankrupt like at least twice, and I've done it like 3 times." And I said, "I don't feel so bad anymore." So anyway, so I went bankrupt, and I decided that I had just gambled a whole bunch of money, borrowed money to gamble on something I knew nothing about. So a great career choice for me, because I decided I no longer wanted to be a starving actor, would be to become a financial advisor. I know, that's such a logical career choice. So if you haven't seen Boiler Room, I highly suggest it. So that's what I did. I went to work for a Fortune 500 company, and I made 300 cold calls a day, interrupting strangers, asking them for money. I know Dan would tell you not to do it, but I didn't know Dan then. So I did that for quite a while, banging my head against the wall, eking out a living, until in my spare time, I am a professional magician, hence the title America's Ultimate Marketing Magician, and in the website, ultimatemarketingmagician.com, and I was reading a trade journal for magicians. Yes, magicians have trade journals too, like 8 of them. Used to be only 2 or 3. The last 15 years, now there's like 8 of them. So anyway, there was a full-page ad in the Magic magazine for a marketing course for magicians. I didn't have the money because I was cold calling. So I went to my parents and I said, "Can you buy this for me for my birthday present?" And they said, "Sure." I bought it. I doubled my prices. I implemented it. I became the most expensive, busiest magician in Western New York. Busiest at the highest price. And I went back. I used my consultation critique certificate with Dave D., the man who sold me the course, who you know is CMO of GKIC. And I said, "Dave, would this work in my real job as a financial planner?" He said, "Yes, it would." I said, "How'd you learn it?" He said, "Dan Kennedy." So I plunged headfirst into the world of Dan Kennedy for a while. I finally got the opportunity to do a consultation with Dan, and Dan said, "You're doing everything your industry teaches, which is wrong. Write me this really big check and I'll change your life." His pitch was obviously a lot better than that. So I went home and I said, "Honey, I know 12 months ago, that's my wonderful wife, Rebecca." I said, "Baby, we got married 12 months ago. 9 months ago, we bought our first house. 3 months ago, we had our first baby. And about a week ago, you quit your job to become a full-time stay-at-home mom, leaving me the sole breadwinner to provide for my wife, my child, and my mortgage, making cold calls. I need to go borrow a whole bunch of money to go hire this guy, Dan, so he can fix this cold calling thing." And she said, "No." It wasn't as polite as that, but she said no. I came back the next day. I asked her the same question. She gave me the same answer. 30 days in a row, same conversation. Day 31, she said, "You better pray this works." So I hired Dan, went to work with Dan. At AG Edwards, the Fortune 500 company I worked for, there were 6,700 financial advisors at the time. I was in second to last place based on production. I was 6,699th. 2 years of working with Dan, he quadrupled my revenue, and I was in the top 30 in the country, competing against advisors who had been building client bases twice as long as I had even been alive. So it worked, and it worked really well. So I said, "Dan, what do I do now?" He said, "Build a marketing firm and do this for other people." So I said, "Okay." And I started a marketing company, Market Domination LLC, started out as me and one client, and expanded from there over the last 8 years to now we have an office building full of great employees, and we have clients all over the world, everyone from the individual solopreneur, bricks and mortar retail, author, speaker, coach, consultant, info marketer, professional practice, to Fortune 500 companies. So it's been an incredible, awesome journey. Along the way, Dan says one of the things you need to do to separate yourself from your competition is write a book. So obviously I've written 6. And let's get into it. Let's talk about why podcasting is your freedom. Your freedom from money stress, your freedom from time stress, your freedom in that you'll know where your next prospect is coming from, your next client is coming from, your next referral partner is coming from, all through the use of a very strategic podcast that I'm going to teach you right now. So a lot of the challenges people are facing, you are probably facing too. you're probably thinking, maybe I should do this podcasting thing, but I don't know anything about the technology. Or maybe you're thinking you don't have the time to podcast. You're not sure how it's going to make you any money. And you're not sure who you're going to interview, who you're going to put on your show, or what you're going to talk about. We're going to cover all of that. But if you take away one thing, and if you're not taking notes yet, you should be right now, and you should write this down. iTunes is not a social network. iTunes is a media platform. Once you have a podcast on iTunes, having a media platform makes you what? A reporter. And if you're a reporter, you have the ability to grant anyone what they want, which is exposure. So what that means is, as a reporter, well, you could be sneaky and use it to get press passes to concerts and stuff. I'm not telling you you should do that, but I have had a couple clients who have done it. But you're no longer cold calling, I hope. You're no longer emailing saying, hey, I want to sell you something. But now it's media. You're offering them a media appearance. Hey, would Mr. Jones like to appear on our show? Oh my God, of course he would. Gatekeepers say, oh, hang on, I'll put you right through. Or the PR department emails you right back going, yes, we would love the opportunity to put Mr. Jones on the air. All of a sudden, every door opens. I've gotten Fortune 500 CEOs, you name it. Now, if you have a media platform, you can get to them and they will happily respond. So if you don't know how to podcast, don't worry. You don't need to buy any equipment, no fancy microphones, no fancy studio, no fancy editing stuff. You literally, all you need is the ability to dial the phone and hit a button called record. I'm going to show you right now. This is Gary Okino's podcast, The Outdoor Boardroom. He's a golf coach. Why would a golf coach, a local golf coach, need a podcast? How would it work? Well, on The Outdoor Boardroom, Gary interviews large company CEOs who golf to talk about their greatest business, life, and golf lessons on the golf course. And guess who then hires Gary to who flies Gary out to give them a lesson at really high premium pricing? Those same CEOs that otherwise he could never get to. So now Gary, who used to be stuck in Orchard Park trading time for dollars, is now getting to play courses all over the world and flown to Aruba and the Bahamas and all over the world to meet with the CEO he interviewed and give him a golf lesson and have take his family with. He gets a free vacation and he may make 5, 10, 20 grand for a couple days worth of golf lessons when normally he might have made $75 per lesson because he changed the target market and he changed the marketing. What if you don't have time to podcast? What if you think, oh my God, I hear Gary Vaynerchuk or Tim Ferriss, those guys do hours every day. You're not going to do that. Literally the way we do it, your podcast should be an interview podcast, not you talking to yourself. Because if you talk to yourself, who is going to promote you? Just you. But if you interview someone, they will promote that they were on your show. So the way we do our interview format podcast that we're going to teach you, 15 to 30 minutes max, one a week. That's it. You can find 15 to 30 minutes a week. Why am I doing this? That is my wonderful wife, Rebecca, and those are the 3 kids we've got now. Max is the boy on the right. He is 8. Ella is 6. She's on the left, and Lily is turning 3. She's in the middle. But I am also doing this because I believe, thanks to Dan, very much in Ayn Rand's philosophies. And I know that entrepreneurs are the ones who are going to save this world, not the politicians. It's not the government handouts. It's the entrepreneurs. So I loan a lot of money to third world entrepreneurs to start or grow their businesses to help them get out of poverty. So I hope you will do the same. But again, I'm not asking you to do anything. All right. So what's different about the way we podcast? Again, some of the myths we hear all the time: technology, don't have the time, don't know how to get the right guests. Hey, when I started my podcast, I didn't know how to get the right guests either. But now look who I've gotten to interview. Roland Frazier of Digital Marketer, Bas Rutten, UFC champion, Sally Hogshead from Fascinate, Garrett White of Wake Up Warrior, John Benson, inventor of the video sales letter, Dan Kennedy himself, Craig Simpson. I've gotten to interview some amazing, amazing people, and it's because I've got a show. And once you've got a show, you get to interview amazing people too. So these are the steps to successful podcasting. Please write them down, and I'm going to walk through each one. Your podcast needs a concept and a name. So how are you going to figure out what you should name your podcast? Well, if it's not obvious, then you should probably search iTunes for a podcast in your niche and S&D, what they're doing. I'm going to show you how to do that. Or you can go to Google Keyword Planner and look for traffic numbers for the keywords you want to rank for and use those in your title. So let's say I wanted to do a podcast on personal branding. I go to iTunes, podcasts, top right, type in personal branding. And the top left podcast is the one ranked number 1. That would be Life is a Marathon. Let's look at it. Whoa, that's a long title. Why would Mr. Bruce do such a long title? Because these are all keywords he wants to rank for. And how come his name isn't just Bruce Van Horn? How come his name has all of these things in it? Because they're keywords. His description has the same keywords in it. And if you read description, you can't see it in the slide, but if you look in the descriptions of the shows and the show notes, you'll notice those keywords keep showing up because he's trying to rank in iTunes, and he has done so successfully for personal branding. Now, you would think maybe it shouldn't be Life is a Marathon. He could actually bump it up even higher. He's already number 1. If he wasn't, I would tell him to change the name of his podcast from Life is a Marathon to like Personal Branding Marathon or something, so it has the word in the title. You should put the word in the title until you've got 92 reviews like Bruce, and then you can do whatever you want. So if I go into Google Keyword Tool and type in personal branding, you see there's all sorts of different keyword groups with different monthly searches and different levels of competition, and I can analyze that to try and figure out what I might want to name my podcast. You need an introduction for your podcast because, again, it's a radio show, so it's got to sound professional. It needs music. It needs an announcer who's not you. That intro should position you as the expert in your niche. Should be a lead generation ad for the podcast to get them to listen to it, and for the next action you want them to take. So I'll show you mine. Welcome to the Direct Response Marketing Magic Podcast. Seth Green is a 5-time best-selling author, so there's my expertise. To get free access to his magical marketing video series, simply register at Ultimate Marketing Magician. There's my lead gen ad, and then podcast. On the podcast, Seth brings together cutting-edge thought leaders, so that's what you see. Wow, I better listen to this because that's what I want. So you'll see I hit all 3 things, and it's less than a minute and a half. So that's your intro. Just fill in the blanks. How you're actually going to do your podcast, you're going to go get an app called Call Recorder. It's free. You're going to record the interview, and then I'm going to show you where you can go get your intro done professionally really cheap. So if I go in the App Store and search Call Recorder, this comes up. Call Recorder free. That's what it looks like. That's what you want. It's free. You just have to pay for the airtime you use. So instead of paying $60,000 a year for the airtime on radio, you may pay $10 a month for the airtime on iTunes. I mean, the airtime to record it on Call Recorder. So I'm going to get Call Recorder. I have to buy some credits. So in this case, I've got an hour on there. I hit the little red record button. Up comes, it dials into the system. It says call recording has started. I then hit this little add contact button. I pick the person I'm calling to interview. We get them on the phone. I then hit merge call. I say, are you ready? They say yes. I hit merge call. It is now taping the call. At the end, I hang up, and Call Recorder pops up and says, you have a recording available. Would you like to email it to yourself as an MP3 file? And you say yes, and poof, there's your episode. But you need that intro to sound good. So you go to Fiverr.com and you pick somebody to do your intro. It depends on if you want a male voice or a female voice. Do you want them to be young? Do you want them to be old? Do you want them to have a British accent, a Southern accent, a Jamaican accent? I don't know. But there's tons of voiceover artists who will do it for you with music is probably $15. So they will send you an MP3 file of your intro. And then all you have to do is splice your intro in front of your episode, and poof, you have a finished product. Now, if you got scared by the word splice, don't worry about it. If you can cut and paste a Word doc, you can do this. All you need to do is go get a program called Audacity. It is a free audio editor. It works just like Word. It works like literally you drag and drop the intro. You drag and drop the file from Call Recorder. You hit merge, and poof, you have a finished rendered MP3 file of your show. That's literally it. Now that show needs a place to live so that it can go to iTunes. That place is going to be Lisbon. We are not an affiliate. I do not get paid for recommending them, but we host all our shows there. You're going to go to Lisbon, sign up for Lisbon. It's like $10 a month. You're going to upload your episode. You're going to follow the directions step by step in Lisbon that tell you how to cut and paste the feed link. Don't worry about it. Into iTunes. Don't worry about what this means. It walks you through with screenshots to tell iTunes you've got a show. iTunes approves it. Then every week when you post a new episode to Lisbon, it automatically sends it to iTunes. That's it. So every week you do the same thing. You record an interview. You put your intro on the beginning of it. You put it in Lisbon. Lisbon tells iTunes you got a weekly show on iTunes. Now, every time you air an episode, you're going to tell the guest that you just interviewed, here's the link to the show. If you wouldn't mind, share it with your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Paris, email list people. And they will happily promote it because they're on the show and you made them look good. Then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to transcribe every episode of your show, edit those transcriptions, and turn it into your next book or your first book if you don't have one yet. That's how I wrote my podcast marketing magic book. I interviewed 20 of the top podcasters, transcribed the interviews, and poof, there was my book. Then when the book comes out, you're going to send the people who are on your show a copy of the book saying, hey, here's the book that you're in. Let me know if you want more copies. And here's the website for the book. If you want to share it on social media and email, because after all, you're in the book. And of course, they say, yes, I'd be happy to promote it. Hey, I'd love to give away 200 copies of this book to my clients. I'll take 200. You sell them at cost. Don't worry about making any money on the book sales. The point is that person just handed out 200 copies of your book. That's basically 200 referrals. A number of those people are going to come back to you and do business with you because you wrote the book. So does that make sense? All right. Are you seeing how this could work in your business? Oh, I see we got questions already. Awesome. Love questions. Okay. I'm a dentist. I'm a pediatric dentist. How would this work for me? Okay, you're a pediatric dentist, so you're going to go interview all of the 20 pediatricians in your area and transcribe them, edit them. Now you got a podcast and a book, and I would probably do a theme around something like raising healthy kids. And in addition to the 20 chapters of the pediatricians, there's also going to be a chapter by you about your practice, why you became a pediatric dentist, mistakes parents are commonly making in taking care of kids' oral hygiene, stuff like that. And a lead generation ad like, hey, get your first exam and consult and x-rays free or whatever it is with this special coupon code so you can track results. Then those pediatricians are all going to buy a couple hundred copies each to hand out to patients to stick in the lobby. And some of those parents are going to say, oh, I'm going to a regular dentist, not a pediatric specialist. And geez, I'm not happy with my dentist, or see, we do need to go. And poof, those pediatricians are going to keep handing out those books over and over and over again. You're going to keep getting referrals. Your practice explodes. Does that make sense? Awesome. So will you be our next success? I hope so. I hope I've inspired you to, podcast is actually easy. You just have to dial a phone and hit record. Think strategically about the guests you are on. You want to interview people who are ideally suited to promote your business to their clients, customers, or patients, who are the clients, customers, and patients that you want. I hope I've inspired you to turn it into a book so they promote it, both the show and the book. And if all podcasting did for you was get you in front of your dream referral sources and prospects, would it be worth it? Yeah. If all it did was get your next book done without you having to write it, would it be worth it? If all it did was get you new customers, clients, and patients, would it be worth it? You bet it would. So, can you do it? Can you dial a phone? Can you read? Can you edit a Word doc? Those are silly questions, I know, but I have to ask. In all facetiousness, there really are no limitations to this. The technology is no longer an issue. All you need is a phone. The way we do it, it's not rocket science. You read the interview questions, they answer them. You can splice the audio. You can follow the step-by-step instructions on Lisbon. You can transcribe. You got a book and a podcast. If you don't want to do it yourself, if you want it done for you by us, obviously we're happy to do that. We turn away about 70% of the people who want to work with us because I can't do this for two professionals in the same niche in the same area. Like if I'm working with the dentist across the street from my office. I can't take another dentist in Buffalo because it'll sort of defeat the purpose. So you got to apply first. Go to podcastmarketingmagic.com/apply, and then we'll see if you qualify. We'll set you up with a strategy session to talk about how this would work for your business and if we can take you on at all. So I would tell you, go to podcast. If you have any interest in having it all done for you, we literally do everything except the interview. It has to be your voice on the show, but we do the research, we book the guests, we do the marketing to the guests to get them to be on the show. We do the audio editing. We professionally produce the audio. We manage the submission process to Libsyn and iTunes. We do the transcription. We do the publication of the book through our own publishing company, no cost to you. We do literally everything. So if you're interested in talking about that, go to podcastmarketingmagic.com/apply. Otherwise, I hope I've inspired you to podcast, and I look forward to hearing your next success story. Thank you so much for joining us today.